How would Barcelona look under Hansi Flick? That's a question that we're going to try and answer in this video to see, based off of the tactics that we learned in the first and previous video from Flick, based on his tactics, how is he going to maybe align Barcelona in line with what he does, assuming that he will be doing what he did at Bayern Munich in particular. As always, do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow. But without wasting any further more time, let's get right into this analysis. If you haven't watched the first video, I suggest that you go do that, because this is the kind of lineup that I would think Hansi Flick would play. In the build-up phase, we talked about how he wants the left footer to receive the ball in that half space, to play the ball over to his fullback on that side, and also maybe playing the ball in behind and even trying to find these wingers in the half space, So this is going to be interesting. Are we going to play or see Inigo play, or is he going to be replaced? And the lung-busting runs that Alphonso Davies made under Hansi Flick, Balde would have to do that, to get the ball in behind. But I do see somebody like Kubarsi really flourishing in a system like this, line-breaking passes because of verticality. I can clearly see Kubarsi finding the wingers from his position. So really excited to see Kubarsi. But that left footer is really worrying me, right? And also the balls that you see that we can play in behind and even find the number 10. Do you see somebody like Inigo being able to play those kind of passes, the line-breaking passes? So we might have to go into the market if we want to play this way with the verticality. And can Cancelo do that as well? Can Cancelo do those lung-busting runs? Because in a vertical team, you need runners. Assuming we have to sell centre-backs, because I can guarantee you all of these guys won't be able to stay at Barcelona. So far, Inigo and Kubarsi is the only two players that I can really see staying here, because I think Hansi Flick would be willing to work with Inigo, right? But do you see the likes of Eric Garcia staying? And I think Christensen would be right after Kubarsi. But I do want to hear what you guys think. Christensen and Kubarsi is your tactical players, the guys that can do those line-breaking passes that's good on the ball. Now you kind of have to choose between Koundé and Araujo, right? Who are you going to keep from those two? And I think in terms of ability, you can still improve Jules Koundé, but can you improve Ronald Araujo? So we are definitely going to at least lose two players right here. And I think it should be Araujo and Eric Garcia, because the way that Hansi Flick wants to play, he wants his centre-backs to be able to play those passes, those vertical passes, like you see Boateng and David Alaba did at Bayern Munich. So let me know down in the comment section, who would you sell? I just wanted to give these names and put them here in these positions, just for argument's sake. Hansi Flick likes to have a defensive midfielder, then he wants to have a box-to-box midfielder, and then the number 10s, right? So you see kind of a traditional midfield from Hansi Flick. So we can be guaranteed that we will not see a double pivot. However, Hansi Flick do expect this box-to-box midfielder to come in here when it's needed, but for most of the time, they will always be in a normal 4-3-3. There's also no inverting happening here for Hansi Flick. So at base, this is kind of worrying me, are we going to get somebody like Kimmich, Guido or Onana to come and play as a defensive midfielder, because this is quite important to Hansi Flick, right? And this player, like we talked about earlier in the previous video, he does want these deep line, especially these two players. They are the ones that direct the play for Hansi Flick, right? So can you see that this defensive midfield is also very important to Hansi Flick? So we need it's almost guaranteed that we need to get this man a defensive midfielder. And then I think now with Gavi coming back, Gavi can operate as a box-to-box midfielder, helping with attack and coming back to defend. And this actually puts Frenkie de Jong in a good position as well, because initially I thought that we should get rid of him. But now, since Hansi Flick is taken over, I think we might, after all, have some use for Frenkie de Jong. And also, he should renew his contract, right? If I'm not mistaken. Frenkie's contract is up next year or the year after, I'm not sure. So we need to have box-to-box midfielders, and Bernardo would be a dream. He would be literally a dream signing for us if we can get him, this box-to-box midfielders. So I think with Hansi Flick, we're going to see a lot more clear way of playing and indication to the teams, clear tactics. And then you're going to have the number 10. So you have the deep lying midfielder, you have the box-to-box midfielder, and then you have the number 10. You see, so I think that Gundogan is probably going to be the starter over there, him and Pedri. And I'm a little bit worried about Fermin, because Fermin is also like a number 10. Fermin likes to operate higher up the pitch. So who would your perfect midfield be under Hansi Flick, right? Seeing that you see that you get the defensive midfielder, box-to-box midfielder, and your number 10, which is like the Raumdeuter, how the guys move around under Hansi Flick at Bayern, this would be your Thiago, your Thomas Müller, right? So I think we're going to get a distinct role for each one that they have, like I said, defensive midfielder, box-to-box midfielder, and your number 10, which is going to clear a lot of stuff up, right? So signings is going to be important. I don't think we need any player that we need to sign as a number 10. Also, we do have Gavi and Pedri, Gavi and Frankie, for the box-to-box midfield role, and then we need to sign players for defensive midfielders. Now, when you're talking about Hansi Flick's front structure and tactics, you of course know he will be playing the 4-3-3. And let's start here with the right wing. I think Lamine Yamal is probably going to be the starter ahead of Rafinha. We all know Hansi Flick wants to have clear tactics and clear responsibilities for each player in his team, right? However, Rafinha does concern me a little bit with the fact that he's not really an out-and-out winger. So what will Flick think of that? Because Xavi moved him over, right? And Rafinha had his best moments in the season more centrally rather than on the wing. So it will be interesting to see what Flick does with Rafinha. Is he going to demand of him to stay out wide? Because like I said, Flick wants a clear distinction on what every player does, right? For example, the midfield, he wants to have a pivot, a box-to-box midfielder, and a number 10. Is he going to allow Rafinha to come inside? Well, we might have to wait and see on that stance. Looking on to the number 9 position, I think Lewandowski is going to get preference here based on the fact that Lewandowski literally had a Ballon d'Or winning season under Hansi Flick in 2020. And this is insane, right? And I'm super excited to see how Lewandowski is going to fare under Hansi Flick, the amount of goals he's maybe going to score. Because I would imagine that Flick would know how to free up Lewandowski. And I think Xavi really struggled with that, to get him to move around. And the dropping, I'm not a big fan of somebody, unless it's false 9, I don't want an out-and-out striker to be able to drop. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does that. Vitor Roque, his season, his future at Barcelona did look a little bit scrappy. But now that Hansi Flick is there, there's hope. He was definitely on the way out under Xavi, but now I think with Hansi Flick now you might see something different from Rogue. He does give the team something different. And somebody made a crazy suggestion, which I've been thinking all along. Alexander Soloth, can't we sign that guy? Because he's strong as hell. He scored 4 goals for Barcelona against Real Madrid. So, wow, that's a great suggestion for me, in my opinion. And going over to the left wing, there is some hope for Ferran Torres, but that was basically because with Perisic at Bayern, you did see Hansi Flick did let him move inside, but that was because Alphonso Davies was able to cover and do those long busting runs. So for somebody like Ferran Torres, there is hope, because you did see somebody like Coutinho also playing on the left, cutting inside, and then you saw Alphonso Davies making those long busting runs. But if you go out and out, those two players, Nico Williams and Rafael Leao. What do you think about Rafa Leao? I think he might be a great addition to Barcelona. I would prefer him over Nico Williams. I think Nico Williams is a more realistic signing that we can make. But if we do have the money, let's get Rafael Leao, because he's great at one-on-one and he runs in behind, right? He's not somebody that loves to cut inside, right? So who do you pick for the front line as well? I know I'm asking you guys a lot of questions, but please do try to remember it and comment down below. What do you think? At face value, I think this is realistically what we have at the moment for Hansi Flick. You can definitely see Kubarsi starting there at right center back because of those penetrative passes that you see into the back line. Christensen is also a very good option there. And then, of course, Ter Stegen starting at goalkeeper. Then you have Inigo or another left-footed centre back. But I think Hansi Flick would definitely prefer to have a left-footer there. whether that's going to be a right center back, but he expects somebody to be able to give those penetrative passes. Then you're going to have Balde and Forti at left back, Cancelo and Kunde. I have Kunde at right back as well because he has played there, right? I don't think Hansi Flick would force things if it cannot. If, let's say, for an example, we don't have Joao Cancelo, then Kunde would be able to start there. We would start him there because that has worked the season for us. To be honest, we don't know what's going on right over here at the moment for Barcelona. But these two positions are pretty well covered for us at box-to-box midfielder and also the number 10. That's pretty much covered for us. We also have the right winger. We have the front four is also covered if we can definitely sign Nico Williams. However, question again, do you think we can win the Champions League with this squad? Let me know down in the comment section. That would be all for this video. However, I would like to hear your comments, and I want you guys to put down a lineup that you think Hansi Flick will be playing, the formation as well, and then maybe we can discuss that in the next video. But the video right after this one is going to be about why did Hansi Flick fail at Germany. It's going to be a really interesting topic. We got a lot of tactics in that video. It's already halfway made, but as always, do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to go bigger. See you in the next one.